Okay. Hi, Donna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fine. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Nice to have you with us. We're going to be talking about your book. Actually, you've got two, right? Lester Lyon series.
Yes, I do.
Okay. They're real cute. I looked at the covers and I read the descriptions. Before we get to the books, though, I want people to find out a little bit about you. It says on your bio that you are a retired special ed teacher. And as we were talking about before we got on, that you're in Massachusetts, uh, were you teaching down the Cape the whole time? Is that where you've lived?
No, I did all my teaching in Rhode Island. I used to live in Rhode Island. We lived there actually for years. We retired to Cape Cod, but I taught for over 20 years in a small town in Rhode Island called Burrillville. And I was a special needs teacher for preschool through first graders.
Oh, that's a good age. They're,
It's a fun, yes, it's actually my favorite age group.
yeah, they're fun at that age. When they get older, they get a little tougher.
Yes. Well, they can be tough when they're young too, but there's a cuteness about them. So
It's true. It's true. It says here that you sustained a life-altering brain injury while working at the school. Well, I'm sorry to hear
correct.
that. Do you want to
Mhm.
tell us a little about that?
Yes, the last 2 years of teaching, I took on a class that I had advocated for, but it was the toughest children in the school district. It was kids that sometimes they would send out to more restrictive environments. So these were children. Most of them were on the autism spectrum, but they were basically, most of them were nonverbal. Not toilet trained. A lot of them were just still like learning how to eat. The thing is, they could be quite violent because since they couldn't communicate verbally, there was only so many ways they had to get their what they needed, get that across to you. And I got 3 hits to the head in 1 week. It was the first week back at school, which is a really hard transition for children that age, especially if they have some of the parents, they don't really understand how to deal with their kids, so they kind of let them do whatever they want. So when you're first transitioning them back into the classroom, it's very, very difficult. And yeah, I got 3 hits to the head in 1 week. My neurologist said that was the perfect storm, and that was the thing that made my brain injury as bad as it was. I got a headbutt right to the forehead from my youngest preschooler who was sitting on my lap and did a backwards headbutt. Then one of my larger first graders kind of tackled me. I lost my footing and fell to the concrete floor. And then the other one, I was kicked and I fell over backwards, all within 1 week. The third one caused me to pass out, and I left the school in an ambulance and sadly was never able to go back, which it actually took me years to accept because I wanted to get better and go back.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm having trouble just picturing kids that small being able to inflict that kind of damage to you.
Well, it's very true. Like I said, the youngest child was on my lap, but think about, a child on your lap, but if they do a backwards headbutt, they're going to hit you pretty hard in the head. The other child, was kind of built like a little linebacker. So yes, he was a small child. He was only in the first grade, but he was a very sturdy child. So that was kind of the reason he was able to do damage. So, and then it was a concrete floor that I fell on. So that, that didn't help.
So you hit your head on the concrete floor. Yeah. Oh, all right. Was this deliberate by these kids, or was this accidental, or?
I don't know that you can say that it's deliberate because, like I said, they all had so much trouble communicating that sometimes they communicate like in a violent manner. The kid that did the backwards headbutt, he wanted something and we couldn't figure out what he wanted. That's why I had put him on my lap. I was trying to soothe him enough because he was just kind of like making noises and like kind of pointing and flailing around. So I don't know that it's deliberate. Were they trying to hurt me? No, absolutely no. I don't think that at all. But they just have so much trouble communicating that sometimes they do communicate through violence. I had a lot of parents that came in and they had bruises and everything because the child would, bruise them and grab them. So yeah, it seems like they're young, but they can be violent because they can't. I mean, think about how if you could not communicate and you wanted to convey that you were hungry, that you were thirsty, that you needed a coat, how would you do it? And I think you would get pretty frustrated. I know that I would. So
So it was more like lashing out of frustration than deliberately trying to hurt you. Yeah.
correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm sorry that you weren't able to go back to teaching. So how long ago was that?
It was 9/3/2015. So it was quite a while ago
Oh,
now.
almost 10 years. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in the meantime, you've been writing children's books?
Not right away. It took me a tremendously long time to recover. I could not speak right after the concussion. I don't mean at all, but like I transposed my words. I would say words out of order. I had a lot of aphasia, which I don't know if you know what aphasia is. Aphasia is, I'll give you an example. Like you might say, can you please put the dishes in the dishwasher? But instead of dishwasher, I would say oven. Please put the dishes in the oven. You're using the wrong word and you don't realize that you're doing it. So between transposing words and using the wrong words, which is aphasia, I didn't communicate very well at all. It was really frustrating. I had years of speech therapy, which helped tremendously. Sometimes I still can lose words, but one genius thing we did in speech therapy is we would do synonyms. And at first I did not understand what in the world she was doing, why I had to say these synonyms over. But what happens, and now I can do it very rapidly, if I am speaking and I can't think of a word, a synonym will come into my head, which is kind of amazing. And she really helped me with that. The speech therapist is also the one who encouraged me to write. Because as a teacher, of course, I was used to talking quite a bit. And it was really frustrating when sometimes I couldn't even convey what I wanted to say to my husband. So she said, you should write. And she's the one that started me on the journey.
Do you still have any symptoms at all these days? I mean, headaches or any problems with speech or balance or?
Yes, I have a daily headache. I have a lot of tinnitus ringing in my ears, which really can get to you unless you studiously ignore it. Yeah, I do have balance difficulties. I especially have trouble with patterned carpeting. So say you're in a hotel or at some kind of a venue, the carpeting will just make me so dizzy, like you'll feel like you're, on a funhouse floor or something. So yes, I still do have issues at this time.
Well, it's funny you say that because the one that makes me dizzy is houndstooth. If I see that pattern, I start going dizzy.
I totally get that.
Yeah, it's very strange. What about strobe lights? Do you have trouble with those?
Oh, goodness, yes. I was quite the concert goer before my accident, and I still love live music. And I couldn't go for years, which really kind of bummed me out. But just recently, in the past 3 or 4 years, I have gone back to concerts because I just love the thrill of live music. And yeah, if they have strobes or real lights, they will really bother me. I'll have to look down and close my eyes. And usually I can't walk very well out of concert venues, which of course makes people probably think you had too much to drink. And since I don't drink at all, it's kind of ironic. But yeah, I usually have a lot of trouble by the end of the show because of the noise, the overwhelm, and especially if they have strobes.
Okay. So the books that you've got, I see Lester Lyon Calls 911 and Lester Lyon Wants to Roar. So tell us a little about Lester Lyon.
Of course, Lester Lyon Wants to Roar was my first book. That's basically the story of my TBI or my concussion, told as a children's tale. So I'm basically the character of Lester. And what happens is Lester hits a tree when he's running outside in the forest, and he sustains a concussion. And he wants to roar. He wants to learn how to roar again, and he keeps trying and trying. There's a repeating line in the book that Lester wants to. I'm forgetting the repeating line. That's great. Lester, maybe tomorrow. He keeps repeating maybe tomorrow because he wants to get better, and it takes a long, long time to get better. The repeating line is maybe tomorrow, and then in the very end of the book, Lester, after a lot of trials and tribulations, Lester raises up tall, and he is able to roar.
Oh, okay. Now, are these books geared towards the same age group that you were teaching?
They most definitely are. Yes, they are.
Okay. And then Lester Lyon calls 911. Tell us a little
Lester,
about that one.
yeah, Lester Lyon calls 911 is from something that happened in my classroom several times. It's very important to teach young children of this age about fire safety, stop, drop, and roll, what firefighters look like when they're in their gear, and also the importance of calling 911. Now, every year after the children were taught this, not every single year, but several times, children would practice. They would go home and they would be playing, and they would actually call 911. The fire department would come to the parents' house, and the parents would usually come in the next day and be quite embarrassed. And I had more than one parent say to me, someone should write a book about calling 911. So I really couldn't find one out there. I did my research, and there really wasn't a book about how to teach children. I mean, you do want them to call 911 if they need it, but not if they are just playing a game. So I couldn't really find one out there, so I decided to write one.
I also noticed on here it says the book is dedicated to all firefighters, first responders, and EMTs. I think that's great. I think they are underappreciated people in our society.
They absolutely are. I mean, they were obviously the first responders when I passed out at school. They were right there, and they were so tremendously helpful and kind to me. Then there was also another reason why I wrote that dedication, and that was because just about actually approximately almost a year ago to this day, my husband had a heart attack without having any prior heart issues, and he just got up, said he didn't feel well, and he collapsed onto me. So, of course, I called 911, and the 3 gentlemen that came and helped, get him to the hospital so his life was saved, were tremendously kind and helpful. So that's the second reason for that dedication.
Wow. Is your husband okay now?
He's doing quite well. He had to have 3 stents put in, and he had to change his diet dramatically. But yes, he's doing quite well.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. One quick question, and then we got to wrap this up. When you were injured at school, did the kids who did that, did they have any sort of, I don't want to say remorse, but did they understand what had happened?
No, I don't. No, I don't think any of them did. They had some pretty serious issues. So no, I don't think. I know the guy that headbutted me, he had no idea that, that he had hurt me, not even any conception. And even the kid that knocked me down was actually, now he had a tantrum, but he was over the tantrum and he just kind of ran up to hug me. So no.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Donna, we do have to wind this down. Are the books have been released? They're out, they're available?
They're both out. They're available through Amazon.com. They're also available through Barnes and Noble. And you can also get them through my publisher, Kirkhouse Publishers.
Okay. Do you have a personal website that you want to give out?
I do. It is author, AUTHOR, Donna M. Cramer. That's all lowercase.com.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. And best of luck with the books. I hope they do well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.